Hello, I'm Death's Arrow, and welcome to episode 13 of What I'm Thinking. Continuing with the theme of the 7.5 patch, in this episode I will look at the Lorraine 40T and how this French medium tank has changed between the 7.4 and 7.5 patch. From a historical perspective, the Lorraine was one of the concepts developed as part of the AMX 50 project. I did an introduction to the AMX 50 in episode 8 with the AMX 5120. Called the Char Lorraine, this prototype was developed in parallel with the other AMX 50 projects as a lighter medium tank alternative by using less armor as well as fitting a lightweight suspension using 5 road wheels with inflated rubber tires. The total weight was limited to 39.7 metric tons. Unlike the game version of the Lorraine, the Char Lorraine was supposed to have 4 crew members like the other AMX 50 prototypes. Also, much like the other AMX 50 prototypes, the Char Lorraine was never produced. In World of Tanks, the Lorraine is basically an AMX 50 100 on steroids. The two tanks look almost identical outside of the road wheels, mount the same gun, but the Lorraine has tremendously more mobility due to its lighter weight and higher horsepower engine. The trade-off is even less armor, which is fairly irrelevant on high-tiered French tanks to begin with. The auto-loading 100mm gun is the hallmark of this tank, giving the Lorraine significant punch. It should be noted that the 100mm gun has a 6-round magazine. The reload time of the magazine is approximately 38 seconds, during which time the tank is defenseless. Much like other French auto-loading tanks, having a plan for that reload time is the key to survival in this tank. The Lorraine is well suited as a support tank. It has the mobility to flank and the ability to be an effective sniper. The 100mm gun has decent penetration, but certainly isn't quite as effective as its Tier 9 medium counterparts. Brawling generally is not a good plan unless you can isolate enemies, in which case the autoloader puts you at a significant advantage. The Lorraine has gone through 2 significant sets of adjustments since its introduction in the 7.1 patch. The first set of adjustments, aka nerfs, were introduced in the 7.2 patch. Changes included a reduction in mobility, a decrease in gun depression, an increase in aim time while static and on the move, as well as an increase in reload time, including both between shots as well as magazine reload, which is increased to 50 seconds. The second set of adjustments were in the 7.5 patch, as the tank was moved from Tier 8 to Tier 9. According to the patch notes, terrain passability was increased, dispersion while on the move was decreased, aim time was decreased, reloading speed was increased between shots, and magazine reloads. 2 of the engines were removed, as well as the DCA 45 90mm gun. While I don't have any experience with the DCA 45, reportedly without this intermediate gun, it makes the Lorraine harder to grind. Big change is the decrease in magazine reload time, which is reduced from 50 to 38 seconds. The tank feels a little sluggish as well. The real nerf, though, is the tier change, which puts the Lorraine against much more difficult opponents. Compared to the other Tier 9 mediums, the Lorraine does not compare favorably to its counterparts. While it is the fastest tank in class, the T-54 and E-50 aren't that far behind, although the E-50 doesn't accelerate as quickly. While the auto-loading gun is advantageous in many situations, it isn't as accurate on the move as either the Patton or the T-54s. The E-50 and Patton have the advantage while sniping. All 3 medium counterparts have better armor. For equipment on this tank, I recommend a vertical stabilizer and an enhanced gun laying drive to improve gun accuracy, as well as ventilation to improve all crew skills, along with shorter magazine reload times. As I've noted in previous French autoloader tank episodes, the Lorraine cannot mount a rammer. For crew skills, I recommend camo or repair first. In my case, I went with camo first because the AMX 13 tanks that precede the Lorraine are more valuable with the camo skill. After that, I recommend training 6th Sense on the commander. Other useful skills are Snapshot, Smooth Ride, Off-Road Driving, Controlled Impact, and Brothers in Arms. As we move into the replay portion of this episode, we'll be looking at 3 replays. The first 2 replays are on the same map, with the first of the 2 being a 7.4 replay and the second a 7.5 replay. This will allow for direct performance comparisons of the Lorraine between patches. I've also incorporated replays from other experts into this episode as well to show other play styles for the Lorraine. The first replay that we'll be looking at is a 7.4 patch battle on El Haluf from July 29, 2012. The map for this battle is El Haluf. I introduced this map in episode 2 if you'd like to learn more about it. As noted at the top of the loading screen, this is an encounter battle. Reviewing tank composition for this battle reveals the following. This is a Tier 8 battle with 6 Tier 8s on my team and 5 on the enemy's team. My team has 3 Tier 7s, while the enemy has 5. Both teams have 3 arty pieces. My team has 2 Tier 5s and a Tier 4, while the enemy's has 3 Tier 5s. I don't recognize anyone in this battle. As noted in the introduction, this is an encounter battle and a 7.4 patch battle. My plan is to speed up time during reloads because the reload time is 50 seconds. Let's get this show on the road. As we get underway, I pause for a couple seconds to see what my team is going to do. Then make a move towards the overlook above the beach, grab some soft cover, wait for my gun to load, and see if the enemy makes a beach rush. Not sure that's a likely scenario given that the enemy doesn't have very many mediums, although my team isn't built for a beach rush either. My gun has loaded. Nothing spotted across the beach so far. Jumbo, an M6, and a Panther II going across the beach, and since the line is clear, I'm going to make a run myself. The enemy has someone capping. Typical, it's a baiting strategy. An M6 on cap. My team is rushing in to take him on. We have a KV-3 spotted at the top of the ridge. Push behind the rocks for cover. Trying to get a line on the KV-3 right now. Set him up. Get a hit. And a second hit. He starts to back out and bounce a shot. KV-5 headed down to cap. Right now we have someone else on cap stopping the capping. Line up the Tiger and get a hit. Second shot is a miss. Down to one shell in the drum. Take a blind shot in the KV-5 and then begin my reload cycle. Push up the hill. I've got the Jumbo and the M6 still in front of me. Looks like I dodged an artillery shell. French tanks are particularly vulnerable to arty. Since they have little armor, arty shells will penetrate regularly and do a lot of damage. The Jumbo has spotted the enemy's AMX artillery. Jumbo knocks down the arty. KV-3 is spotted again. Reload cycle is completed. Pushing up on the KV-3. Spot the KV-3. His turret is not pointed at me. I missed my first shot. Second shot is a hit. He's not turning to aim at me. Now he is. Third shot is a hit. Shoot him in the flank for a kill. Force a reload. An M41 to my left. A ISU 152 pointed down the hill. And an M41 straight in front of me. Not really in a great spot other than the ISU hasn't seen me or isn't paying attention to me. About halfway through the reload cycle now. I was kind of concerned here in match because I thought the ISU would turn and try to fire on me. He seems fixated on the M6, so I come out from the rocks and move up on him. If I can stay behind him, there's no way he can turn on me. As I reload, I start to put fire into the back of the ISU. First shot's a hit. Second shot's a hit. He's not even paying attention to me. Third shot is a hit. He's down to 41 hit points. I reload. Finish him off. Tiger on the other side of town is pushing in. I force another reload. Getting shot at by the T-34 way down the ridge. I'm going to head over the ridge and use these rocks as cover while I reload. I'm protected from their tanks in general. They have no arty left at this point. Enemy is capping base again. It's kind of a decision time for me here. Do I make a run at cap, try to stop the capper? Spot a T-44 on the ridge. The T-34 again. Enemy's cap has been reset, or they have left cap. Likely they've left cap at this point. Line up the T-34. T-44 is in front of him, and it bounced off the T-44. Second shot bounced off the T-44. T-44s usually don't bounce shells like that. I'm getting very unlucky. Tiger up above me. Just enough gun elevation to get a hit on him, but he shoots me in the flank. Can't get my gun elevated enough, and the Tiger backs out. 3 shells left in the drum. Enough to take out that Tiger, that's for sure. Push back up the hill. Tiger's headed in my direction. Spot the Tiger coming at me. Shoot him as he comes out from behind the wreck and then back down the hill. He tracks me for no damage. I shoot him in the side, knock him down, force a reload. You can see our arty was on point. They were ready to hit him. They both fired too late. At this point in the battle, it's 2 tanks and 3 arty against 3 enemy tanks. Make a decision that I want to get to a different location to try to spot the remaining enemy tanks, which, as far as I know, are all to the north. I've now spotted the T-34 and T-150. Their TD is way over at A6. A little rise in the terrain here that I can use for cover. Respot both of the enemy tanks. I'm hoping artillery can get some hits on them. T-34 shoots me but misses wildly. Missed my first shot on the T-150. Being very careful just to show my turret to him. Second shot is a hit. Already lands on him and kills him. Actually, the IS-3 finished him off. Get hit there by the T-34. Down to 41% health. Forced to reload. It's just the T-34 now against myself, an IS-3, and 3 artillery units. Decide I'm going to reposition here as I reload. IS-3 is pushing up through the valley. Spot the T-34. Back up. It's unlikely that he could one-shot me unless he gets an ammo rack. Come around the rocks and go down the hill to get myself some defilade. Already hits him in the back. I know I've got him now. My reload finishes. Push up on him. Bounce my first shot. He misses his shot. I know I have this in hand now. Second shot is a hit. Keep pressing in. Knock him down for the win. Looking at the victory screen, I destroyed 4 tanks, damaged 1 more, hit 20 of 25 shots, and earned 2,215 experience before the double. Overall, I started the match very conservatively until my team had scouted the beach for me, at which point I moved up and started working over the enemy ridge defenders. My goal was generally to isolate and work over the defenders on the southern flank. I had good support early on, which allowed us to take down the enemy arty. While I did make a slight mistake early on reloading on top of the hill, the enemy ISU ignored me, which allowed me to take a big gun out of the match. From that point on, I played a bit more conservatively, reloading in more sheltered positions, and slowly worked the rest of the enemies down. The second replay that we'll be looking at is a 7.5 patch battle from Death 187 on El Haluf from August 22nd, 2012. As noted at the top of the loading screen, this is a standard battle. Reviewing tank composition for this battle reveals the following. This is a Tier 9 battle with 2 Tier 9s per side. Death's team has an additional Tier 8, while the enemy has an additional Tier 7. The enemy team also has an ELC AMX Scout, while Death's team has none. Both teams have 2 equivalent arty pieces. I don't recognize anyone in this battle. As noted in the introduction, this is a standard battle, and this is a 7.5 patch battle. The replay has been supplied to me by Death 187. As you see, Death has started at the opposite base than I started in my replay. As we get underway, Death has about a 38-second reload on his first magazine. He's going to pull up to these rocks and wait for his gun to load in. It's pretty clear here. Most of the team is headed north. Death is loaded in. This could have disastrous consequences if the enemy decided to push the beach. Although the enemy doesn't have any mediums, so I don't think that's a particularly likely outcome. Arty seems particularly concerned that they don't have any coverage on this flank as they are pinging the map. Right now it's just Death and an AMX 5120 to cover the southern flank. Death technically isn't even really covering the southern flank from this position. 5120 isn't even up on the ridge line, which means there's no one spotting the beach if the enemy wants to push anything that way. Pretty much close to 2/3 of the team is pushing the northern flank. Death is maneuvering so he can get some eyes on the beach. Looks like just random arty fire there. Enemy has been spotted at A4. There's a KV-5 spotted across the way. Death gets himself into a position to line him up. But the KV-5 disappears from view before he can get a shot off. Now have an engagement occurring at A3. Very quiet on this flank. It's possible that the enemy has pushed some units down to this area, but it's unlikely. Death moves up a little further. KV-5 is spotted across the way again. ELC AMX has pushed the beach. Death is going to be unable to depress his gun to fire on him. Looks like he was spotted because something hit the rocks in front of him. You can see that this tank distribution isn't working out too well for Death's team, as himself and the AMX 5120 are on the southern flank, which leaves the enemy's top tiers free to attack in the north. Which that is what appears to be happening, as the northern team is down 4 tanks already. Death is now rushing north to help. We have a Jagdtiger E75, KV-4, and a low. KV-5 and IS are across the valley. Death lines up the low. First shot is a miss. Second shot is a miss. Third shot is a hit. The low is knocked down by the Type 59. Gets a hit on the second low. This flank has been crushed pretty hard. They're down to just a Tiger that's one-shottable and a Type 59. His gun was damaged and he repaired it. Death's got 2 rounds in his magazine. Lines up the Jagdtiger. Gets a hit. The Jagdtiger's one-shottable. Knocks down the Jagdtiger with his last round. Magazine reload starts. Right now, Death's team is down 3 tanks, and a good number of their tier 8s have been crushed at this point. Low and the 59 are fighting around the rock down there. Got a KV-4 pushing up in the valley, and a KV-5 also pushing up. S-51 knocks down the low. Death's reload is just about complete here. Use this rock as cover. A shot on that KV-4. His first shot bounces. Backs back into cover. Trying to get the KV-4 to expose itself a little more, so maybe he can get some flat plates to shoot at. KV-5 is pushing up now. Already hits it, and Death knocks him down. Still have a KV-4 down there. Type 59 pushes up. Death's going to make a run at him. He's got 4 shells in the magazine. Circles behind the rocks. He's exposing himself pretty badly here. There is an M445 and a Jag Panther on the ridge. Another hit on the KV-4. He's taking some fire from the ridge now. IS at Valley shoots at him. Comes around. The KV-4 is distracted by the low. Hits him in the side of the turret. Comes around again. And the low knocks down the KV-4. He's at 55% health. He took some hits there by exposing himself. Friendly low that was pushing up gets knocked down. Got a Tiger and a Jag Panther on the hill. Death is going to turn and back out this situation. Death is now essentially alone on this flank. 5120 knocks down the Jag Panther. He still has fire support, but they're way down at G3. As Death's clip reloads, he's going to head around and up the hill. You can see it's quite a tank graveyard here. Right now, Death's team is down 1 tank. No enemy activity spotted on the minimap. Here's their Jag Panther spotted heavy at F9. Tiger has been spotted. Death sees the M445. No damage on the first shot. Gets to the flank. Damage on the second shot. Third shot is also hit in the rear for damage. Knocks down the M445. First shot was a tracking hit, so it allowed him to circle around the M445 with only the turret able to track him. Very nice move. Death is reloading now. AMX 5120 is making a rush across the valley. He's taking some damage. It's probably an unnecessary risk. Lights up the IS in the middle. Death can't help him from here. Already knocks down the IS. As Death reloads, comes around the rocks. He's going to climb the hill now. No enemies spotted right now. Death's team has evened up the score, and they definitely have better tanks left. Tiger is spotted on the ridge. Death moves into town. Circling around the backside. Probably trying to see if there's some arty back here. Lights up an M41. I want to see a small slice of him. Nails a shot and knocks down the M41. Spots a Tiger 2. Death moves back into town here for cover. The enemy is now down to a Tiger 2, 2 Tigers, and a Lorraine arty. Death hits the Tiger 2 and lights him on fire. Second shot is a hit. Another hit. And then he finishes off the Tiger 2. He's down to 1 shell. Surprised he hasn't started a force reload. Moving around the cab. Tiger spotted on the ramp at F8. Death spots the Lorraine 155-50. He has forced his reload. A little later than I would have done it myself, but I'm a bit spastic with the reloads. Already misses his shot. Death has a long way to go in his reload right now. Artie is trying to back into cover here. Death is using the ridge to his own advantage as well. Keeping the Lorraine spotted for his Artie. The Lorraine's not going to be able to press its gun at him. And it misses another shot. Death reloads, gets a hit, spins around behind him, gets a second hit, knocks him down. Down to just a Tiger here. Death comes up down the ramp, behind him. Gets a hit. Second hit. Hit, no damage. Another hit, rams him, knocks him down for the win. Looking at the victory screen, Death 187 destroyed 7 tanks, damaged 2 more, hit 24 of 27 shots, and earned 2,245 experience before the double. He also earned Sniper, Top Gun, and a Bolter's Medal. Overall, Death 187 was forced to cover the southern flank because 2/3 of his team decided to lemming north. This became a problem because both of his team's tier 9s were on the southern flank, while the enemy's top tiers were able to tear up the northern flank. Once Death recognized the situation, he repositioned north to help take out the enemy's northern push. Once the hill forces were defeated, Death made a somewhat reckless charge, exposing himself to fire from the ridge. While he did take some damage, he was able to take out the enemy's KV-4, which secured the northern flank. He then backed off and began to methodically work to the enemy's base. Rather than going for cap, Death used the town on the west side of the cap for cover and worked down the remaining enemy defenders. While I think he should have reloaded before charging the Lorraine 155-50, he played the situation well by keeping terrain between himself and the Artie while he reloaded and then took it down. The third replay that we'll be looking at is a 7.5 patch battle from Skraeling on Himmelsdorf from August 26, 2012. The map for this battle is Himmelsdorf. I introduced this map in episode 10 if you'd like to learn more about it. As noted at the top of the loading screen, this is a standard battle. Reviewing tank composition for this battle reveals the following. This is a tier 9 battle with 4 tier 9s per side. Both teams also have the same number of tier 8s. Skraeling's team has an additional tier 7. The enemy team has a T50-2 scout, while Skraeling's team has no scout. Both teams have 3 arty pieces. Skraeling's team has 2 tier 6s and a tier 5. The enemy team has 3 tier 6s. I recognize 2 players in this match. Ethics Gradient, whom I serve with in VPG. He is a capable player and force commander. The other is Sumi Zam, who I recognize from the forums. He also watches this series. As noted in the introduction, this is a standard battle and a 7.5 patch battle. The replay is supplied by Skraeling.
Let's get this show on the road.
As we get underway, Skraeling is headed up the middle while his magazine loads. He's going to turn off to the right here, get out of the line of fire, spots a T-50-2. An artillery unit has pushed out to A1 by himself, which puts him at significant risk doing that without any coverage. Got an Object 704 spotted in Tank Alley, which is the 8 column for those that don't know, and an IS-3 spotted across the square. Skraeling's going to use the gap here in the building to line up the IS-3. Gets a hit. Gets a nice flank shot on the Object 704. Gets a hit for no damage. T-50-2 is now running down the 1 line. And that's why Artie shouldn't go out there by itself. IS-8 spotted on the 3 column along with a KV-3. Skraeling's trying to line up this IS-3 again. Can't see very much of him with the fountain there. Bounces a shot. He's down to 2 rounds in his magazine. Enemy 50-2 is down at A2. He's taking on a TD and an Artie, and the TD takes out the friendly Artie. Skraeling's trying to line up the IS-8, and he misses his first shot. He hits for no damage in the second shot and begins the magazine reload. See that his platoon mate is covering Tank Alley right now with an IS-3 in front of him. Skraeling's headed back towards the middle. He's also keeping an eye on the enemies in the 3 column. Reload cycle is winding down here. Looks like he's going to make a run at these enemies in the 3 column. Reload is complete. Really nice timing on his part. The enemy KV-3 misses, comes around, gets a hit on the IS-8. The second hit knocks down the IS-8, keeps going. KV-3 hits him in the track from behind, but no damage. Spins around between the buildings. He's got 4 shells left in his magazine. Hugs up next to the building here. His team has lost their hill push. Notices the M103 in the middle. Lines him up, building in the column. Gets a hit. Second shot's a tracking hit. Knocks him down. Skraeling's got 1 round left in his magazine. He forces a reload. He's got a T-50-2 behind him. T-50-2 misses a shot. He's got the KV-3 down the 3 column. His platoon mate has now been knocked out. We've got an Object 704 and a T-95 in Tank Alley against a Type 59 and an IS-3. Pushes through the cap. He's spotted a T-32 that's one-shottable. His magazine is reloaded. Looks like he's going to try to take that T-32 from behind. That's a smart move. Right now, Skraeling's team is down by 6 tanks. Spots the T-32 from behind and knocks him down. He's got a 1390 out there. Gets a non-penetrating hit on the 1390. Which just basically runs away from him. He's got 4 rounds left in the magazine. It's just himself, an IS-3, and a Type 59. Not very good odds right now. He's avoiding Tank Alley himself. Tanks down there would be very difficult for him to take on by himself. Lorraine, 155.50 is on the 3 line. Skraeling's going to make a run at him. Comes around the corner. Misses his first shot. Hits his second shot. Speeds by the Lorraine. Shoots him in the side, knocks him down. With one shot left in his clip, he starts a reload. Still himself, the IS-3 and the 59 remaining. Down 2 tanks. Skraeling is slow playing things here right now. He's reloading his gun, staying away from the enemies. His ideal situation would be to isolate one of these enemies and take them on. That's where French tanks really excel. The enemies have now completely enclosed the IS-3 and 59. IS-3 is on fire and he burns down. Skraeling's got flanks on the 1390. Hit, no damage. Hit, no damage. There's a hit for damage. And he knocks down the 1390. He's got 2 shells in his clip. Shooting at the 95 now. Bounces. And bounces again. Starts another reload cycle. It's now himself against a 95, KV-3, and a T-50-2. Skraeling, though, is at 100% health, while all of those enemies outside of the T-95 are one-shottable. Obviously, the numerical superiority is to the enemy's team. Skraeling definitely has the firepower advantage with the autoloader, though. All of the enemies being spotted in Tank Alley. Skraeling's going to climb the hill here. I think he's going to try to set up a trap. As he stops here, he is hoping that the enemy will continue to push Tank Alley. The enemy is not biting on what he wanted them to do, or what he expected them to do at least. Skraeling gives up on his weight, heads back down the hill. If he's lucky, the enemy aren't working together, they've split up. Looks like they have as he spots the T-50-2 alone. Comes back through the cap. Loses sight of the 50-2. Spots the KV-3 in the middle. He's going to push past over towards the rail yard. I like his plan here. As I said earlier, he's definitely slow playing things. He's trying to get the enemy to isolate themselves for him so he can take them on one at a time rather than trying to take on 3 enemies at once. Continues pushing down the 3 column here. Spots the KV-3 again, snaps a shot and misses. He's pushing for cap. As he pulls in the cap, enemies in sight. Gets to about 6%. The enemy starts capping his base. This is a draw if there's only 1 enemy on cap. Skraeling knows that and he pulls off. Rolling up the middle here to head back to base. Lights up the KV-3. One shots him on the move, keeps going. He's got 4 rounds left in his clip. Based on the rate of capture, I would say that there are 2 enemies on cap now. Skraeling needs to hustle. He's close though, it's not a big deal. As he comes up on the cap, he spots the 95, and there's the 50-2. Takes a snapshot, the 50-2 on the run. It misses. Circles around the 95 and knocks down the 50-2. Gets a flank shot, the back corner of the 95. He's down to 1 round here, but the advantage is his for mobility. Circles around, gets a flat plate on the rear, knocks down the T-95 for the win. Looking at the victory screen, Skraeling destroyed 8 tanks, damaged 2 more, hit 24 of 28 shots, and earned 1,675 experience. He also earned a Top Gun, Bolter's Medal, and Defender. Overall, Skraeling's performance was a masterpiece. He used hit-and-run tactics perfectly, as well as attacking from unexpected angles. Skraeling never tried to take on more than 1 or 2 enemies at a time. He bounced from flank to flank as necessary, as well as being very heads-up as to the current tactical situation. Even though his team fell way behind, Skraeling kept his head and was able to isolate and work over the enemy. Thank you for watching this episode of What I'm Thinking. Stay tuned for another episode soon. In the next episode, I'll be focusing on the T-30 American Tank Destroyer and how this once Tier 10 heavy tank has morphed into a Tier 9 tank through constant nerfs by the developers. Before signing off, I wanted to thank Death187 and Skraeling for allowing me to use their replays in this episode. I plan to continue to use expert contributors in the future of this series. I also wanted to mention that Death187 has started his own YouTube series called Death187's Replay Vault. If you want to learn more about how to play the Ag Tiger, he's the foremost expert as far as I'm concerned. Check it out, it's good stuff.